Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. Today, we're going to take a look at a pitch deck from Canopy Growth. On the line with us is Katrina Glogowski. She's an angel investor and attorney in Seattle. Good morning, Katrina.
Morning, Josh.
So here's 7 tips to an investment deck. We're going to look at, does it identify business plan goals? Does it know the audience, understand the market? Does it identify needs and roadblocks? Knows what sets the business apart? Does it introduce the team and product and create a summary, really in any given order? But let's jump right into this deck. We actually have a deck from Canopy Growth.
I'm excited to see what a big budget pitch deck looks like, Josh.
I'm excited to take a look at it as well. Normally, a publicly traded company, you don't get to see this. They keep it very, very tight. But while it's up, take a look at may get taken down.
I would like to point out that this is from October. This is not a current pitch deck. I don't know what they are doing currently. I just wanted to state that for the record.
Oh man, if this is printed October, that's current enough. It's within a quarter of a year. So they have Tweed, they have Tokyo Smoke, they have Spectrum Therapeutics, and of course, Canopy Growth, world-leading diversified cannabis and hemp company offering distinct brands, curated cannabis varieties, and dried oil, soft gel capsule forms. So right off the bat, it shows what their stock price has done over the last year, their market cap, all of the things that you'd kind of want to see.
It's a facility, Josh.
Yeah. So yeah, it goes in a 5 million square foot licensed facility. So all of those things, 110 patents. 2.0 just started up. So they have regulations spreading globally. The whole point, not the whole point, but a huge advantage of Canada is having that international play with exports. So this map is nice, showing what regulations, where it's at from Australia to South America and Europe.
Taking over the world.
Yes, if they use their first mover advantages, they will. But we see Macedonia and some other places in Europe trying to get into Israel, to get into Germany, to get in, spread across Europe. So time is ticking for these Canadian companies for sure. This next slide goes into driving the Canadian medical cannabis market. I think that's also a lot of Germany. We saw a shipment be sent back from Germany because it was radiated from Canada. Can't do that. This is medical, completely different product.
Correct.
All right. So what's driving the global cannabis market? I would say that meets one of our 7 points to in a successful pitch deck. So Australia is new, fairly new, right? Germany's got a huge market, 70 million people with access to cannabis. Denmark, I don't think is going to do all that well because there's a lot of people who just don't imbibe, maybe CBD, maybe the medical. I just don't think they're going to be a huge market. We will see. So strong positions for the Canadian rec market, early movers. We just talked about that. So they have a national supply structure, distribution center, and with physical retail. So their purchase of Tokyo Smoke, they tried to open up in Seattle before this acquisition from Canopy Growth when Tokyo Smoke was privately owned. They were going to open up in Seattle. There was beans in the grinder. There was milk in the fridge. I saw the whole facility. And yet after the acquisition, they said, no, we are not going to the U.S., not yet. But they do have 26 Tweed and banner stores across Canada. 600 stores are expected to open across Canada by the end of the 2020 this year, and they have a nationwide sales team.
Identifying the market.
All right, Canadian rec market share leadership. It's the highest at the till. 25% of listed across Canada. It's the highest of all producers and twice that of the closest competitor.
This is an interesting slide because it's a little confusing. Are they saying that in the cannabis rec market in Canada, they have 25% of the SKUs? That's huge. That's market domination. But then it says 25% of all listings. I don't know what that really means.
So they're the highest producer of the 25% that are listed and twice that of the closest competitor. Yeah, very confusing.
Yeah, but they definitely have some reputable brands, and I am personally familiar with these brands, so that's good.
So they're builders to operators at 41,000 kilograms harvested. Higher yields are expected. So they're trying to differentiate with 2.0 that just launched. Products are supposed to be hitting the shelves right now. So they have beverages and vapes and edibles.
I didn't really like that slide very much because that didn't explain really what they're doing. You and I are both very familiar with this market, but to an unsophisticated person, this slide could be a little confusing. You got your chocolates and you got a martini glass. So are they going to make martinis? I don't know.
I think they're taking into account that people know the market. I would agree with you. It's definitely not.
I think if you're playing with Canopy, you know the market. That's a fair statement, Josh. That's fair.
So bottling factory looks like they're going to be bottling their own. Installation is supposed to be done in October when this report was printed, and they're tracking to enter the U.S. CBD market fourth quarter 2020.
This is also huge. The CBD market, they're really poising themselves for total domination. Their partnership with Acreage Holdings for U.S. cannabis and now the hemp market. They got a nice high-end advisor there with Martha Stewart, and that is in my opinion, a good move on their part. That the soccer moms, the baby boomers, there's not really anyone they can trust in the industry right now of what the product should be, what the product should do. In a partnership with Martha is a good sign and a big win for Canopy. That's huge.
As popular as Seth Rogen and Snoop Dogg are, the normalization for the soccer moms, for that trusted brand, that Martha Stewart image is key. And then looking at this 4,000 acres of low-cost, high-yield hemp planted, there was a report that came out, I think it was Business Week, where they talked about 2.5% of the market share owned by Canopy in Canada represented the equivalent of only needing 500 acres. They only need 20,000 acres total in order to fulfill the market demand right now for CBD. So growing 4,000 in the US is significant.
That, and I'm glad they didn't come out with, hey, we planted 1 million acres. Somebody did some math here. Also that 4,000 acres, low cost. That is corporate America starting to play in this industry. They got to keep the cost down. So of course they're not going to plant 1 million acres. Makes sense.
With the short path distillation and subsidiary with Key Leap's facility in Illinois. They have future entry into the world's largest cannabis market, 88 dispensary licenses across 17 states, 24 grow and process licenses across 16 states with broad cannabis product offerings. Acreage to leverage the Canopy, retail brands, cultivation, processing, IP, product IP.
My understanding of their acquisition of Acreage is once cannabis is federally legalized in the United States, that deal will go through. But this is another key partnership. Look at their market domination. They are poised and ready to go. That is another big win for them. And it shows they understand the market. If you're going to spend dollars promoting a brand, do it in all states, not just one. That's corporatization of cannabis. Again, it's good news.
And we've talked about that consolidation happening this year where that kind of co-op model could happen if farmers kind of sort of unionize, if you will, if they get together and try and survive, that can happen, as well as finding a business development, international business executive to create a vertically integrated opportunity for a buyout or other M&As, or create a big enough structure that you can survive this highly regulated environment. So they have cannabinoid-based medical therapies. They have clinical research. So that's big. Can't really do that in the U.S. So they're doing that through the University of British Columbia, looks like.
Yeah, that is great news too, because eventually somebody's going to need to have the science behind these claims. So good for them. That's expensive monies, though.
It is expensive. Good thing with multiple sclerosis and anxiety, pharmacokinetics, dosage, safety trials, all good stuff. So thinking about cannabinoids as an ingredient, CBD, I think is going to be just as used as, salt and sugar, really. It's going to be a huge dietary supplement. I don't think it's going to be a fad long term, but it's going to be with other terpenes, with other cannabinoids, just not isolated. No one's going to want an isolate. They're going to want a full spectrum. But I would agree with having beverages and athletic drinks, health and wellness, animal products, sleep aids, anxiety relief, all claims you can't have.
Not today.
Right.
But again, it shows the understanding of the market and their path to growth. Uh, all of these products are viable, and if you're funded well enough, you can create all of them.
So they have 110 patents, 290 applications filed to date, and more under development for cannabis-based beverage products, cannabis-based therapeutics, devices and delivery technologies, large-scale processing, plant genetics, and broad geographic coverage.
I'd like to spend a minute on this slide so that other cannabis companies and cannabis related companies out there really see what your competition is doing.
Mhm.
Canopy has 110 patents in their pocket. They have 290 more online. That's your competition. Your competition isn't the farmer down the road. Your competition is worldwide. Your competition is well funded, and your competition is going to have every product SKU on the shelf. So this slide is more telling to other cannabis companies than to Canopy.
Mhm. Yeah, Deep Cell in Seattle has about 40 patents for sugars and salts and other products. And then Next Leaf up in Canada, ticker symbol oils, they have over 40 patents for extracts. And so if you're getting distracted by your own state and what they're trying to do, then you're not looking at the bigger picture. It's going to be devastating for those that don't understand that.
Agreed.
All right, looking at some of the numbers for Canada, quarterly positive adjusted EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. From corporate, looks like 40% gross margins, $1 billion in annual revenue, and net income positive 3 to 5 years.
It sounds like a long time, but given their growth plan, at least they're being honest about it. Uh, they're they're just funneling all their money back into the growth. That's a good sign.
If you can project being a unicorn, that's what every investor wants, right? Is to reach that annual billion, not just a market cap of $1 billion, but annual revenues of $1 billion. That's ideal.
Yeah, that would make you a player,
Mhm.
to say the least.
All right, we finally reached the management team.
Introduce the team is number 6.
That's number 6 on the list. Thank you, Katrina. Yeah, so they're ticking away at our top 7 tips to an investment deck with the management team. A couple pages here. Oh, that's the last few pages. All right. So no description of what they're doing, but I'm sure you can find that online or LinkedIn. Being publicly traded, they're out there.
One of the things that I really didn't like about this deck, Josh, is they didn't identify any potential roadblocks or potential problems. When you move into an entire new country like the United States, they talked about their acreage deal, but they didn't talk about how they're going to be licensed in all these states and how they're going to handle that potential merger. Now, granted, it's still up in the air because there's no federal legalization, but they sort of put it in the deck as if it was a done deal. The other problem that they didn't really identify is their overseas growth. They mention their overseas growth, and I personally know that they have multiple licenses across many countries, but they didn't really identify any problems. This pitch deck is all shiny and rosy, and we're going to make billions of dollars, and it's not that easy. And the example you brought up about the Germany shipment being returned because of irradiation, Canada requires irradiation. So how are they going to continue to export to Europe with that conflict? So I think they missed the mark on number 4. And then the final comment, there was no ask. Uh, Now, granted, they're publicly traded, and this isn't a typical angel investment pitch deck. They certainly don't need my $1 million. It's useless to them. But at the same time, they didn't ask for any money. They're like, "This is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to spend it, and this is what we hope for. But there was no financials in there at all. They were projected to 1 billion. Yay. What'd you sell last year? And when you take the lack of financials into account with the problems that the Canadian cannabis market has been encountering in the last 4 to 6 months up on the CSE, that's kind of a red flag to me. So I think they missed the mark on 2 of these 7 requirements. Josh, what do you think?
Let's go through them. Number 1, identify the business plan goals. I think they kind of picked through that. They decided that they want to be a global player in pretty much everything. Do they know their audience? I think they do. Number 3 is understand the market. They pointed that out. They're publicly traded. They're going international.
Oh,
And
they understand the market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Needs and roadblocks. I don't know what they need, and I don't know what's stopping them from getting it. So I'm not even sure what they're asking for. They definitely didn't have the financial statements or an ask what they wanted. So I'm not even really sure what this deck is about, but maybe by the end of it, we'll get through that with the summary. Number 5 is know what sets the business apart. What would you say? Is that just their international presence, their first mover advantages, the fact that they're projecting $1 billion in annual revenue? What does set them apart?
I think the breadth of their product line sets them apart. Yes, the patents are important, but at the same time, they are fully vertically integrated. They are growing it, they are processing it, they are distributing it, and they are selling it at the retail level. And while that's common in Canada, that's not common in other places, including Europe, South America, and the United States. So having a well-funded company allows you to dominate the entire chain. And that, I think, really does set them apart. Cannabis is cannabis. You can have a great brand, but you have to be able to control your costs. And it looks like with their vertical integration, they're at least able to address the costs, if not control them completely.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of really great products that don't get distributed or sold because people don't hear about it. So it's either a lack of PR or lack of distribution. The fact that Canopy Growth has this supply, distribution, sales structure, everything in place with the financial capital behind them seems like a kind of a win-win-win right there.
Yeah.
So introducing the team, they did on the last 2 slides and then create a summary. They kind of missed out on that. And so what would be the summary? From your take on this, what are they asking for? What do they want?
I think that they are looking for investment. However, again, this is not a typical angel situation because they're on the stock market. I would have to go to the stock market to buy these shares anyway. And so I don't think that they really needed to say, hey, go buy us off CSE, because anybody can do that at any time. If they are trying to raise another round, I think that would still be regulated by the CSE because they're already on the stock exchange. So I am a little confused to see a pitch deck from a publicly traded company where you started right off in the podcast, Josh, saying this is unusual. And I don't really know what they want. Maybe they're just trying to get people to go to the CSE and buy some more shares. But again, this also might be more of a report type thing, maybe for shareholders as opposed to a pitch deck. But at the same time, they are pretty much saying we need to fund this growth. So who knows? I don't think that they created a summary in the traditional sense of the word. I'm going to say all the slides put together are create a complete picture outside of the financials. So maybe they didn't need a summary slide altogether. I would like to state for our listeners that this is a pretty good model to base your pitch deck on. the graphics are nice and clean. They have the required requirements for investor disclosures. We don't often see the disclosures. Hey, this is not investment advice. So it's nice that they put those in there. And it's clean. It doesn't contain the financials, as we've already discussed, but it's clean and contains the information that most investors would want to see. So if you can model your pitch deck on this one, I think you'd have a pretty good start.
I would completely agree with you. I think this is a great pitch deck. It's just very odd that a publicly traded company is saying, we already have these stores and we're going to open up more. We already have these products and we're going to launch some more. This screams PR to me than anything else for those that haven't invested yet or maybe sold. And I mean, there's a valuation there. At some point, these stocks have been depressed so much that maybe they're trying to get some of that capital back by saying, look, we've done a lot since the last time you traded us or actually bought and held. I mean, I just don't think that this is a true deck. I think it's just kind of asking for help, and it's reassuring maybe existing shareholders, but it screams to me kind of a PR stunt, if you will, rather than a traditional deck.
I would share that opinion, Josh.
But it's good. I would echo your sentiment about using this as an option if you're trying to build a deck for yourself. The way that it's laid out is very clean, gives a nice screenshot of how much money is being made. There's not a whole lot there to dive into. There is no ask, but it does give you a financial background, tells you about the industry, and meets 5 out of the 7 points for a successful pitch deck.
I agree. 5 out of 7 easily.
5 out of 7 it is. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. I want to thank my guest, Katrina Glogowski. She's an angel investor and attorney in Seattle. Thanks again.
Thanks, Josh.
I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. Did you want to do one more?
Sure, if you got another one.